Good morning, guys. Sitting here this morning, getting geared up, hydrated, energized, and mentally prepared for my indoor cycling class at the YMCA. It's a 60-minute competitive ride. All of your scores are up on the board. At the end of the class, you're really competing against everyone for mileage. And although you are competing with everyone anonymously based on their bike number, you're really only competing against yourself. Last week, I set a personal best of 24.2 miles on the bike. This week I hope to do better. I'm not necessarily optimistic, but I'm always pushing. As I've been trying to cut calories lately, and lowering your overall energy intake really has an effect on your ability to expend that energy on the bike anywhere. Everything kind of gets slower, your performance slows down. But I set a PR last week, 4 or 5 weeks into dieting, about, I'd say, net weight loss of 15 pounds since I started, so maybe 10 pounds of water, 5 pounds of fat, which is a pretty good start. And I started in a pretty lean shape, so I'm hoping to get down to maybe 170 on the scale, dry in the morning. As for the rest of the day, I'll probably take the dogs out to the farm, play with them, try to get some test footage with this camera, maybe work on some editing, see if I can figure out how to color grade, how to make this footage look better than it actually is. And also just let the dogs burn some energy. If you can't hear O'Malley pacing around, he's got his rope here. He's like a thief in the night. Thankfully, just a little bit ago, he had his jar out. He's got a jar with a rope on the end. He runs around the house and flings it around like a flail and bangs it around on everything. And all you hear is just thump, thump, thump. But you never know what toy he's going to pick to play with and what he's going to do with that toy. He has some kind of master plan. I don't know what it is. He may not even know what it is, but he does have intent of some kind. Then, after that, after I take the dogs out, I'm going to try and do a little, maybe Twitch streaming. I don't know if I'll play some Apex, play some Escape from Tarkov. Been having a lot of fun with that. So we'll see how that goes. I'll let you guys know how the class goes. Like I said, I'm shooting for 24.2 miles. If I get that far, great. If I don't, it's not the end of the world, but I'm still going to push for it. I'm in here getting ready to leave for the Y for my cycling class, and I look outside. There's Clark. Just hanging out. I don't know if he thinks he owns the place or what he's doing. He's an indoor cat, but he makes himself at home with the dog's door and goes outside, and really the whole yard is his domain. So and he's got a little tag on him. I don't know if you can see it. Zoom in. No, you probably can't. He's got a tag, I'll show you sometime, that says, "Hello, my name is Clark." Very sweet cat, but also a lethal killer. So stay away from him if you see him. Wow, guys, just getting out of the Y. About 45 minutes after the cycling class ended, 60 minutes of absolute balls to the wall cycling. Finished with not a PR. I tied my distance last week at 24.2, but I did PR on watts, which I was really surprised on. I think I can thank the Dairy Queen and the quality meal I had at a steakhouse last night. For those of you who are interested, 270. I don't know if you can see that. 270 watts was my average. 24.2 miles in 60 minutes. Sometimes when I'm feeling really up to it, there's another non-distance based class after I'll stay in, but that was everything I had. I left out there. Really feels good to get out, but man, when I was done, I had to go into the stretching room and I pulled out a mat and just laid down for 10 minutes because I was just gassed. It is very satisfying though, knowing that you gave it your all in something like that. For those of you who are curious, I like to gauge my effort in those classes based on heart rate. So I use my Apple Watch Series 5. You don't have to have anything that fancy, but it's really nice to be able to see your level of exertion. So I had almost a total calorie burn. I don't know if you can see that. 1,000 calories, average 162 beats per minute, which I would say is about my 80 to 85% range. It's not overdoing it. If I was in a full-on sprint, I'd be in maybe 190 would be the peak. And I imagine I peaked around 180 on the class, And like I said, when I was done, that last final push I put on the bike, I was putting 550, 600 watts for the last 25 to 30 seconds. And I mean, if I was on an outdoor bike, which I don't ride outdoors, I just ride inside, it's fun, there's no stress, I probably would have fallen over. How hard, you know, I push myself. The way you can do things on a fixed bike is different than what you can do outside. And that's what I really like about running inside, cycling inside, is you can push those boundaries. Obviously running outside wouldn't be as big of an issue, but you can push those boundaries and you can challenge yourself and not have to worry about those external factors, whether it's control, you know, overdoing it. You can stop, you know, people around you to help. But it was a good ride. If you're ever interested in cycling, you know, I think it's a really high impact cardio event, but it's also low impact on the body if you keep your form right. So if you've ever been thinking about it, head on out to a class. You won't regret it, except for if you're sore the next day, but that's just part of it. I know some people struggle to find the motivation to overcome challenges, especially exercise. They have a hard time pushing that threshold, finding that high end. And I just want to give a few tips on how exactly you can overcome that. First and foremost, if you're really struggling in an event and you want to overcome it and be successful, I find that it's extremely helpful to not focus on it. Find a way to escape from that. Make it secondary, tertiary, quaternary. Is that it? I think it's quaternary. And don't let that self-doubt of focusing on it overtake your mind. When you find a way to distract yourself, whether it's through music, daydreaming, games, something, whatever there's a million ways. You can look it up. There's a million different ways. Some people literally count. They'll just count and just keep counting and see how far they can count without thinking about the event. It's wild, but when you can do that, it can be extremely meditative. And for me, you know, obviously today's not necessarily a day I have a lot to consider, but on work days when I work out in the morning, I use my run as an opportunity to collect my thoughts, to meditate, and to figure out what I'm going to do for my day. And I also daydream. It's important to daydream about your life and your future, to set those goals, to have aspirations you can work for. Along those same lines, the second thing I think is to set realistic goals. If it's exercise-based, I like to set a range. I have a minimum and a maximum. You've got to be willing to push those boundaries. You want to at least put in a minimal amount of effort. When I say minimal, I don't mean just take it easy. I mean, I want to be, for instance, working at 70% or 65, 70% of my heart rate, and a maximum, I want to be all out there. You know, like I said, at the end of that cycling class, I laid it all on the line. When I was recovering, I wasn't willing to go under 225 watts. I know for you guys who don't know anything about cycling, that's irrelevant, but that's just a good metric. And in terms of exercise, heart rate is the best, bar none, best way to tell how it's going. You have a gauge, I guess, to compare it to something. I would say like an RPM gauge, a tachometer on a car. You can tell how hard that engine's working by how many revolutions a minute it's making. You hit that red line, that maximum, you're really taxing the system. You need to find a way to back it off and overcome those things. The third aspect of it for me is kind of similar to the second. You got to find that balance between pushing yourself and overdoing it. In terms of exercise, like I said, a heart rate monitor is a good way to do that. When you hit that maximum, you need to back off a little bit because you only have so much mental and physical capacity when you're pushing your limits. So it's really important, if you want to go longer and you want to do better, you need to be able to pace yourself effectively. And that applies to everything. I think that applies to more than just exercise. It applies to life. You can get burnout very quickly by metaphorically sending it too fast out of the gate. Fourth, and I know this may sound really tacky, and it could be number one in your list, is to believe in yourself. Your mind is the foundation of every single thing you do, and you can literally do anything you set your mind to within reason. Instead of saying, I'm struggling, I'm suffering, this sucks, try and remain overwhelmingly positive. Use thoughts that inspire you. You know, for me, this is going to sound silly, but to me this is really powerful. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, I say something like, in my head, this is nothing. You know, I am a machine. I am a conqueror. I am many things, but a quitter is not one of them. You've got to find the way to push it, to tell your mind to stop feeling sorry for itself. Fifth, and if all these things fail, maybe you just need a reality check. Humble yourself a little bit. What a privilege it is to be able to go in and suffer
on your own will, your own accord, your own choice. How many people do you know that were robbed of the opportunity to do the things you get to do, to have those privileges, to have those abilities, to be able to get in and leisurely exercise or attack their goals? You should never feel sorry for yourself, because just having the opportunity to do that is a privilege. Being alive is a privilege. And when I go in and I am suffering hard, for instance in the cycling class, when I really, really feel it, I think, wow, what would this person give to be able to just feel this, to be able to harness this energy, to live this life? You got it pretty damn good to be alive, guys and gals. Don't ever forget that. Dogs and I just wrapped up playing some ball out at the farm, and my $1 million thought of the day: what if we could harness the energy of border collies for a clean, sustainable, renewable energy source? I don't know. Elon Musk, that one's for you. Well, everyone, I just finished my first video on Premiere Pro, and wow, I really have a lot to learn. So if you made it this far in the video, I just want to say I'm really appreciative. I'd appreciate any kind of feedback, criticism, or comments that you have for me. It's certainly going to be a learning process, but I think in the end, I'll hopefully be able to put out some quality content on the farm. And that was the purpose of this first video, was to explore a little bit into the actual videoing and then the art of editing those videos into a watchable content. If you'd like to watch me do something that I'm actually decent at, come over and catch me on Twitch. I'm usually streaming weeknights, 4 p.m.-ish Central Time to 9 o'clock. I play Apex, Escape from Tarkov, and whatever other games are interesting at the time. I'd love to see you drop into chat, say hi, and talk to me a little bit about your life. And if you have any tips, go drop them there. Look forward to seeing you guys, and thanks for watching. Peace.